Welcome to Lesson 8, the second lesson in our module on solutions. We're going to cover the what, when, where, and how of resource acquisition. After completion of this module, you'll 1. Know the basic resources you'll need to get your innovation venture going. 2. Have a sense of where to get these initial resources, as well as how to think about when to ask for them. And 3. Understand the concept of bricolage, a key technique for early-stage innovations. So let's get started. As an economic activity, innovation requires transactions, or exchanges of value. To be clear, an exchange is not just someone giving you money for a good or service, it's much more than that. In fact, you're going to be engaging in transactions long before you ever sell a product to a customer. For example, you might need a coder to help you build out a high-fidelity prototype of an app. You might need additional users to give you their feedback. Or you might need your boss to give you the time to develop your innovation. In all cases, you'll start by exchanging the promise of something new and exciting for resources that will help you to develop the innovation. And that's what this lesson is all about. It's unlikely that these people will provide you these resources for nothing. So you need to offer them something valuable in return. That something is the ability to be a part of an exciting idea that's going to help solve a real problem. To begin, think about what you are offering in exchange for whatever it is you want to get. In exchange for product design services, you can offer a coder the chance to use their skills to create something cool. In exchange for feedback, you can offer users the chance to see something interesting that might expand their thinking and possibly be a part of a solution to problems they're experiencing. In exchange for time to work on your idea, you can offer your boss the prospect of something that might make the division they run more efficient or effective, as well as the ability to showcase their ability to lead a creative team to their own boss. There are lots of other examples of how participating in your innovation can provide real value for those whose resources you may need to move it forward. Investors provide cash in exchange for future profits. Employees provide labor in exchange for a chance to get in on the ground floor and be a part of something exciting. And the list goes on and on. A good way to help structure the decision about what exchanges you will want to engage in is to think about the what, the when, the where, and the how. So first, what do you need? There's probably a lot of stuff you'll need, and likely much more than you might realize to begin with. But start by creating a simple list of the resources you see as most essential to building out your innovation. Next, when do you need these resources? Which resources are essential now? Which can wait until later? What milestones will trigger those future needs? And most importantly, how much value do you have available to exchange? A Gantt chart is a good way to get you started answering these questions. A Gantt chart is a tool used a lot in business that helps people manage complex projects. It lists the various activities that must be completed and when. It also notes which activities cannot begin until others are completed. These aspects make it perfect for mapping your resource needs over time. Let's go back to our noise-canceling headphone example. Before you can test your assumption that users will want to program their noise-canceling preferences, you need to build a prototype of your app. Therefore, your need for technical assistance from a coder would come before your need for feedback from users. You can easily map this out on a Gantt chart, along with other resource needs you've identified, such as equipment to build a high-fidelity prototype to test your trivial assumptions, employees to develop relationships with potential distributors, and so on. Keep in mind that the activities you will engage in and your resource needs will change over time, in no small part due to whether and how you pivot and persevere as a result of your iterations through the build, measure, learn feedback loop. But not to worry. Gantt charts are intended to be living documents, and you can always update yours throughout the innovation process to reflect your ongoing resource needs. Lastly, a problem that all innovators face is that resources tend to be most difficult to obtain when they are needed the most. Early on in the process, an innovation is nothing more than an idea, and so there's only so much value you can offer. This is why you need to carefully plan the timing of your resource acquisition efforts and only go after those that are absolutely essential to enabling you to move your idea forward at any given point in time. Once you've mapped out the most critical resources you need and when you need them, the last question you'll need to consider is where and how will you get them? One of the most common ways that innovators answer this question is by bricolage. According to Ted Baker of Rutgers University and Reed Nelson of the University of Louisiana, bricolage is about creating something from nothing by making do with the resources at hand. It means pulling things together that other people and organizations consider useless and figuring out how to use them in some creative ways that support your project. Bricolage is particularly important when innovators are unable to convince those with the resources they would like to acquire to engage in an exchange with them. This happens most often in the very early stages of the innovation process, when the actual or perceived value of what's offered in exchange for resources is too low or too uncertain or both. We'll talk more about this in the next lesson, about how to best communicate the value and excitement of your innovative project. But in cases where an exchange is simply not possible, innovators are forced to either cobble together what they can or give up. Of course, bricolage can also be used when exchange is possible, but when what is at hand will do for the sake of efficiency or frugality. Recall from Lesson 6 that McDonald's prototyped its food delivery process on a vacant tennis court, and NASA engineers prototyped a lunar module with old cardboard boxes. As these examples show, bricolage is an attitude and approach to innovation that requires some creative thinking and a willingness to experiment and tinker with suboptimal resources. As Professors Baker and Nelson explain, the key to creating something from nothing is to simply refuse to treat the resources at hand as nothing. So let's summarize the key points from this module. Innovation is a process of exchange, and long before you are exchanging products for cash, you will be exchanging other forms of value for the resources you need to make those products a reality. You need to consider both what resources you need and when you will need them. Exchanges are costly, and innovators often have a limited amount of value to offer. So it is essential to seek out resources only when they are needed and not before. Lastly, as the old saying goes, perfection is the enemy of the good. So rather than wasting time and value on ideal resources, consider whether you can simply make do with the resources at hand. You may find that with a bit of creativity, you can use a bricolage mindset to move your idea forward more quickly and avoid giving away the store at the same time. Engaging in resource exchanges during the innovation process is exciting. It gives you insight into the value your idea has in the eyes of a variety of audiences and can enable you to move your innovative project forward in exciting ways. So what's next? Well, there's only one more lesson to go. In our final lesson on championing your idea, we're going to talk about how to get people excited about the exchanges that are critical to the success of your innovation.